Welcome back to Loch Harbour Astro. This is another video for Pix Insight, and this particular one is for a member of the Stargazers Lounge. This is his data that I'm using for here, and I'm just going to run through a demonstration of how I added the colours in, and just the basic workflow that I used just to try and assist with the updated versions of everything. So without further ado, we'll get into the data itself. As you can see, there's the standard green cast on there, so that's going to be my first stop, is get rid of that. For that, I'm going to use automatic background extraction, because I'm only looking to get rid of the green cast on this. So open up, I think these two come shut down, so just open those two up. Function degree, I'm going to drop down to 1. It's standard on 4, but I'm going to drop it down to 1. The correction type is subtraction, and I'm going to discard the background model and replace the image, and then just run that as it is. Everything else is standard, and as you can see, turn off the STF stretch, turn it back on again, and that's the green cast gone. So that's that out of the way. Now I'm going to boost the STF stretch with this second button at the top here, STF auto stretch boosted, and that's going to highlight where we've got stacking artifacts on the image. So you can see down in this bottom right hand corner, a little bit along the bottom here, and down this left hand side, and a little bit across the top, especially just in this corner here. You can just see that where it's more purpley in that corner there. So I'm just going to drag the window out so that we can see the full extent of the image. And then I'm going to come up to dynamic crop, and then just pull it in until I get rid of the stacking artifacts. I'm going to leave as much of the image as I can, but obviously remove the items that are going to create an issue when it comes to actually doing any color correction. On the bottom here, the bottom's not too bad, and I'm also aware that we've got these two bright stars down here, so that one I'm going to leave in situ. This second one on the left here, I'm just going to crop about half of it out. Now with this, the astrometric positioning is going to be removed when you crop it like that, so we're just going to put that back in. So I'll come up to scripts and go down to image solver. This data is all taken from the FITS data, but I'm going to put M51 in there just so it knows where we're looking. Probably not required on this because the FITS data is accurate, but we'll let it run through that and come up with its position again. There we go, that's that done. So from there I'm going to go on to the SPCC. Now on SPCC, just before we do that, with SPCC I'm going to want to do let's see, the QE curve on here. There is actually one for the IMX533, which was the sensor that was used for this particular image. So I'm just going to click on that. If the sensor that you used isn't listed in any of these at all, then you just use the ideal QE curve. But as the sensor's here, then I'm going to use that. Everything else I'm leaving as standard, because this was a color image. There was no dual band filters that we used, or narrow band filters that we used, so this lot all remains as is. background neutralization, I'll leave the numbers as they are, but this region of interest here, I am going to put something in here. Now, to put this in, I come up to this preview window here, click on that, and then I come down to the image itself, and I'm looking for an area of the background that is completely starless. So I'm actually going to look down in this area here, and you can see even on the boosted image, this area here is quite nice, and I'm just going to use that as the preview. You can you will see in a minute when I go back to standard STF stretch, then that's the area that I've picked, and it's created a preview window here. So over on the SPCC window, I click on region of interest, and then click on from preview, and then we're looking at preview 1. Click on that, and then the coordinates of the background that we're using is in there, and then we just run SPCC, and there we go. That's the graph, and that's us finished with that. I'm going to leave this preview window in here because I'm going to need that for the multi-scale adaptive stretch later, so I'm just leaving that in there. But there, that's what we're looking at, and then when we zoom in, we can see we've got that there. So the next thing I'm going to do is blur exterminator. Now I've already checked on the corners of this, and I'm not going to do a blur exterminator correct only, because the stars are pretty round in all the corners. There's nothing wrong with them. So I'm not going to do any correction to the stars. I'm just going to leave them as they are and just run a full blur exterminator. Now, settings wise, for the stellar adjustments, I'm going to leave the stars exactly as default. For the non-stellar adjustments, because I'm using it, because it's a galaxy, then I'm going to put automatic PSF on there, and the sharpen non-stellar I'm going to turn up to 95, and that's it. Run that. So it won't take too long to go through, and we can see what the difference is. There we go. We just zoom in, and before and after. So that's highlighted the dust lanes quite nicely in there. Although we still need a bit of work done to them, but they're not too bad. So that's that. Now we come to the actual stretch itself. So multi-scale adaptive stretch, which is relatively new to Pix Insight, but for galaxies it's really good. For nebular, I don't like it that much. I still tend to use either histogram transformation or GHS stretch. I tend to use GHS stretch because you've got more control over it. But for galaxies, MAS or multi-scale adaptive stretch is very, very good. So again, you see that in here it's got background reference. So I've left the preview window in there. So we're just going to click on that and do the same as we did before by just selecting that region, and that's the background reference that we're going to be using. So open up a preview window, turn off the STF stretch so that we can see it, and this is what we've got. So straight off the bat, then you can see it's added some color in there. So what I'm going to do is move up on the dynamic range a little bit there, move it up to 50. In the contrast recovery here, I'm going to go from 8 up to 256. And you can see that's just brought this detail down a little bit there. And then I'm going to boost the saturation to where I want it. on this one I'm going to go 80 and 60 on the boost, just to bring it up a wee bit there. And you can already see that there's blues coming in there, and there's some nice star colors there. So that's where I'm going to leave it and apply that to the image. And there we go. Now I can take this preview window off. Don't need that anymore. I'll delete that. So the next one, you can see that's a stretch done with the stars in it. The stars are looking not too bad. Now I'm going to take the stars out so that I can colorize the stars using curves, and then I can work on the background as well. There we go. So open up the curves, preview window on the stars only, and all I'm going to do with this is saturation, and just pull the saturation up until I get the stars roughly where I want them. There, that one's nice and blue, that one's nice and yellow, there's a slightly blue one there. Yeah, that's about fine. Apply that, and that's all I'm going to do with the stars. I'm not going to do anything else. I could bring them up, make them brighter, or dull them down a little bit, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to leave them where they are. I'm happy with them. Now I can shrink that down and move that out of the way so that we can come back and work on the galaxy itself. Now for this, I'm going to start off with curves, but the first thing I'm going to do is make a mask. What I want to do is mask off the galaxies from the background. So to do this, I'm going to take a luminance, copy of the luminance channel, and then I'm going to open up curves and open up a preview of the luminance channel. So what I want to do here, I'm going to use RGBK, and I'm going to bring up the bright section of the image, and I'm going to go right down to the bottom here and drag the dark parts right down. So I've got quite a pronounced FS bend in it, and then I'm going to apply that. So that's given us the startings of the mask, and it's taken all the background out, and we're just highlighting the galaxies themselves. Now we need to make them a bit fuzzy. It works better if they're a bit fuzzy, and to do that we come up to processes, all process, and then come down to convolution, open up convolution, and open up a real-time preview, and you can see just with the settings there, it's made these a little bit fuzzy. Now you can turn it up or down if you want to. You can make it more fuzzy, fuzz it right out, or you can turn it down and make it sharper if you want to. So I'm just going to leave it like that. In fact, I'm going to bring that up to about 15 where it was just now. There we go, and apply that, and then we're done with that. And what we can do with this is then pick that and put it onto the main image, and we've suddenly masked off the background. So now open curves, and when I open the preview window, you can see you can't see the mask in there, but when I do the saturation, you'll see it's only the galaxy that will come up. So I'm going a bit over the top there just as a demonstration. The background is staying where it needs to be. So I'm just going to boost that up to about there, apply that, and then just make it a little bit brighter, apply that. And then because we've got a bit of a green tinge to it, I could use SCNR to reduce the green, but I'm actually going to take it off of the curves here and just pull it back a little bit. I find this a lot more controllable than using SCNR, and I can bring it up or down there. You can have just a play around with it and see what you think. I actually quite like that, so I'm going to apply that. There we go. And possibly just boost the blue a little bit. There we go. Just a little bit on the blue. And now that we've done that, I want to work on the background. So I'm going to come up to mask, invert mask, and you now see that the background is available to work on and the galaxies are masked out. So open curves again. And with this, I'm just going to do some RGBK, leave that in the center position and just pull it down slightly. You can make it brighter if you want to, or I'm just going to pull it down a little bit. Don't want to pull it right down so that it's black because space isn't completely black. And that's where I'm going to leave it. So I'm going to remove the mask off of that. And then I'm going to come to HDR multi-scale transformation. And I'm going to leave this on 6. So I'm just going to zoom in on this so that we can see what's going to happen to the galaxy itself. So I'm going to leave this number of layers on 6 and let that work its way across there. And there we go. That's not looking too bad, is it? If it's a bit dull, then you can go back into curves and just boost it up a wee bit more. There we go. That'll do. That's okay. I could use unsharp mask for it, and for this, zoom in on the galaxy. So click the square and just draw a square around the galaxy to zoom in on it. And you can see what its unsharp mask has done. It's put lots of noise around the outside of it. So we can draw that back down. I normally bring this down to around about 40–50%. I'll bring it down to 45 and boost the standard deviation up to about 3. Possibly over the top of that, but there we go. There we go. And that's it. That's all I'm going to do with that. Now we need to get rid of the noise. So I've got 2 versions of getting rid of the noise exterminator, and also Graxpert has a denoising facility. I've run when I did this particular image initially, I did use Graxpert, but I found that actually made the dust lanes lose their intensity and they went a bit fuzzy. So for this particular one, I'm going to use noise exterminator, and I'm just going to go for probably 80%, no, 75, yeah, about 75%, 2 iterations of it, and just fire that off, and then we'll see how it goes. The outside dust around here is going to be a little bit more fuzzy. We want to get rid of this stuff in the background here like that, but we want the dust lanes to remain crisp, which they pretty much have. If we just do a flip back and forward, I don't know if you can see that on YouTube, but that's the dust lanes in the center of the galaxy has remained nice and sharp. So that's pretty much all I want to do to it, apart from add the stars back in. And to do that, we're going to do pixel math and create a new image. I always create a new image rather than making putting it over the top of this one, just in case I have to go back. expression editor I use, and this is the code that I use. You can just do background image plus stars, but I tend to use this little thing, and it just makes the stars look a bit better when they're added back in again. So the code that I use is squiggly line. That's over by the above the hash key, and then open bracket, squiggly line again. Then we put the background image in, close the bracket, multiply, close the bracket, multiply, open bracket, squiggly line, stars, close bracket, close bracket. And that is pretty much the same as screening the stars back in again, and then click apply, and there you go, there's your image. So if we pull that out so you can see it, so there, that doesn't look bad. Zoom in on the galaxy itself, and there's plenty of color in there. Dust lanes are nice and crisp. Stars have got good color. And I think that's where I'm going to leave it. I hope that's been useful to you, and so hope you've enjoyed it. And the workflow is, you can use the same workflow as me, or you can use your own workflow. These images are individual to each person. Somebody might want more purple in there, somebody might want a bit more green. It's down to the individual. This is what I do, and I hope the techniques that I've used today help you on your journey to learn Pix Insight. Thanks very much for watching, and clear skies.